China made history this year when it became the first nation to land a spacecraft on the far side of the moon, the Chang'e 4, named after the Chinese goddess of the moon.
Something huge just came out about what China has quietly been putting together on the moon. And honestly, this changes the entire conversation around who really leads space exploration right now. A fully functional lunar base not built by astronauts at first, but by a smart, wheeled humanoid robot preparing everything before any human even steps foot there. While the Trump administration once pushed a massive $20 billion moon base idea,
across the far side of the moon, the bigger American project is about keeping the other great powers on Earth, think China or Russia, from extending their influence to outer space.
China is aiming to land astronauts as early as 2030. So who is actually ahead at this point? Stay with this, because the details only get more surprising. China's lunar construction project revealed. International Lunar Research Station often comes up as one of the most ambitious space plans in recent years, and the idea alone already sounds like something pulled straight out of a future that feels very close. Back in March 2021, an agreement between China National Space Administration and Roscosmos set everything in motion, with both sides laying out a vision for a permanent scientific base on the moon. At first glance, the partnership looked balanced, almost like two major space powers joining forces to build something bigger than either side could manage alone. But over time, shifts on Earth started to shape what was happening beyond Earth. After the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, reports suggested that cooperation began to tilt, with China stepping more firmly into a leadership role while still keeping Russia involved. That change raised a quiet question that kept floating around. Was this still a joint project, or had one side effectively taken the steering wheel? What makes the project even more interesting is how quickly it started attracting attention from other countries. More than a dozen nations signed on, including countries from different regions and economic backgrounds. Names like Venezuela, South Africa, Egypt, and Pakistan appeared on the list, alongside others such as Belarus and Thailand. The mix says a lot. Instead of focusing only on traditional space powers, the project leaned heavily toward broader global participation. That approach felt deliberate. Was this purely about science, or also about influence and partnerships on a global scale? Plans did not stop at a handful of partners. Chief designer Wu Weiren outlined a vision that sounded almost unreal in scale. 50 countries, 500 research institutions, and 5,000 scientists all working together by 2035. That kind of ambition naturally leads to another thought. Could such a wide network actually work smoothly, or would coordination become one of the biggest challenges? Then comes the choice of location, and this part feels almost cinematic. The lunar South Pole, a region that sits in constant contrast between extreme light and extreme darkness. Some areas receive long periods of sunlight, while others remain in permanent shadow for billions of years. Temperatures swing from intense heat to unimaginable cold. That alone raises curiosity. Why pick such a harsh place? The answer sits beneath the surface, literally. Scientists believe that permanently shadowed craters in that region contain water ice, not just traces, but potentially usable reserves. Water on the moon changes everything. Drinking water becomes possible, oxygen can be produced, and even rocket fuel can be generated through chemical processes. Suddenly, the moon stops being just a destination and starts looking like a resource hub. That leads to an even bigger question. Could the moon become a stepping stone for deeper space missions? One mission tied closely to this goal is Chang'e 7, designed to explore areas near Shackleton Crater. The aim focuses on confirming the presence and accessibility of water ice and other materials. If findings turn out positive, the entire strategy gains momentum. If results disappoint, plans may need adjustment. That uncertainty adds a layer of tension. How much depends on what that mission discovers? Looking at infrastructure plans, the scale becomes even clearer. Power alone requires multiple solutions. Solar energy works in sunlit regions, but what about areas trapped in darkness? That challenge leads to radioisotope and nuclear power systems entering the picture. Reports have even mentioned plans for a nuclear reactor on the lunar surface, built without human presence using automated systems. That detail alone feels almost unreal. Machines building a power plant on another world with no humans physically present. Does that sound like science fiction? Or simply the next step in engineering? Communication forms another critical piece. A base on the Moon cannot function without a stable link to Earth. Plans include both Earth-Moon communication systems and high-speed networks across the lunar surface. That means data, commands, and research findings moving constantly between worlds. Imagine a delay of just a few seconds shaping every interaction. Would that change how scientists work day to day? Transportation on the Moon introduces another layer of complexity. Designs include rovers, both pressurized and unpressurized, along with something called a hopper. This unmanned vehicle could travel long distances by lifting off and landing again, almost like short jumps across the surface. That idea sparks curiosity. Would movement across the Moon look more like driving, flying, or something entirely new? The timeline stretches across decades, which makes sense given the scale. The first phase focuses on building a robotic base near the South Pole, with completion targeted around 2035. Several missions are planned to deliver equipment, set up systems, and test operations. Each mission acts like a building block. One brings communication systems, another delivers research modules, another tests energy supply. Step by step, a functional base begins to take shape. Then comes the second phase, extending toward 2050. At that point, the plan grows into a full network rather than a single base. A station in lunar orbit acts as a central hub, while surface bases spread across different regions, including the equator and even the far side of the Moon. That expansion raises a fascinating thought. Would future exploration start to resemble a connected system rather than isolated missions? All of this runs parallel to other major efforts, especially from the United States with the Artemis program. Both aim for similar regions and similar goals, which naturally creates a sense of competition. But competition in space often blends with cooperation in unexpected ways. Could rivalry push faster innovation, or might overlapping goals eventually lead to shared efforts? Another layer sits beneath all the technical details. Space exploration has always carried political weight. Partnerships, alliances, and participation choices often reflect broader global relationships. The ILRS project, with its wide list of partners, seems to follow that pattern. Inviting developing countries into advanced space research creates opportunities, but also raises questions. What does each participant gain? And how does that reshape global influence in the long term? Even the idea of a permanent presence on the Moon shifts perspective. Earlier missions focused on landing, exploring briefly, and returning home. This project aims for long-term operation, possibly even continuous human activity in the future. That change feels significant. Does a permanent base mark the beginning of living beyond Earth, or simply a new phase of exploration? The technology making it possible. Advanced robotics for lunar construction often sounds like something pulled straight out of science fiction. Yet current progress shows something far more practical and, surprisingly, close. Early phases of building on the Moon rely almost entirely on machines. Human presence comes later. Machines prepare landing zones, assemble shelters, move materials, and keep systems running long before any astronaut steps onto the surface. That approach raises a simple question. Why send people first into an environment that swings between extreme heat and freezing darkness when machines can take the risk? Conditions on the Moon create serious challenges. Temperatures can climb to about 130 degrees Fahrenheit in sunlight and drop to around minus 334 degrees Fahrenheit in shadowed regions. Equipment must survive both extremes without constant repair. Dust adds another problem. Lunar regolith sticks to surfaces, clogs joints, and wears down moving parts. Every machine must handle harsh terrain filled with sharp particles and uneven ground. Reliability becomes everything. A breakdown on Earth leads to a quick fix. A breakdown on the Moon could delay an entire mission. Autonomous construction systems step into that gap. Robotics teams have already tested machines capable of assembling structures without human guidance during execution. One major effort involved a system that builds shelters using voxel-based blocks. Each block works like a modular unit, almost like digital pixels turned into physical objects. Hundreds of these units come together to form walls and protective structures. Before any real-world attempt, simulations run countless scenarios. Build sequences get tested repeatedly. Errors get corrected in a virtual environment first. Only after that does physical construction begin. Such preparation leads to a smoother process during real operations. A robot does not improvise in the same way a human might. Every movement follows a plan. Every placement of a block follows a sequence refined through simulation. That approach reduces mistakes and conserves energy. On the Moon, energy is limited and must be used carefully. A simple misplacement could mean wasted time and power. Careful planning avoids that problem. Movement across the lunar surface presents another design decision. Traditional humanoid robots that walk on two legs may look familiar, but stability becomes an issue on uneven terrain. Engineers have explored a different solution that combines human-like manipulation with wheeled mobility. A semi-humanoid robot mounted on wheels offers a practical balance. A rotating waist allows wide movement without repositioning the entire base. Arms provide dexterity. Wheels provide speed and stability. Chinese researchers have developed a version of such a robot for future lunar work. A waist, capable of rotating roughly 180 degrees in either direction, allows access to objects on either side without turning the base. Forward bending up to 90 degrees makes ground-level tasks easier. Hands with multiple degrees of freedom allow gripping, turning, and precise placement of tools or materials. Each arm moves in several ways, including shoulder, elbow, and wrist articulation. That range of motion brings flexibility similar to human arms without sacrificing mechanical efficiency. Wheels form another key advantage. Instead of rigid tires, a metal mesh structure with steel wire treads provides durability while remaining lightweight. Flexibility helps absorb shocks when moving across rocky terrain. Stability improves when compared to walking machines. Faster travel speeds also become possible. In an environment where time and energy matter, faster movement means more work completed within limited operational windows. Vision systems play an equally important role. Stereo cameras allow machines to understand surroundings by comparing two images, much like human depth perception. Distance, shape, and spatial relationships become clearer. A movable neck expands the field of view. Up, down, left, and right motion allows scanning without moving the entire body. That design improves efficiency. Instead of repositioning constantly, the robot adjusts vision to match the task. Construction alone does not complete a lunar mission. Resource collection becomes essential for long-term presence. Carrying supplies from Earth remains expensive and limited. Local resources must be used. Lunar regolith contains materials that can be processed into oxygen and hydrogen. Oxygen supports breathing and fuel production. Hydrogen contributes to fuel and water creation. Extracting these elements reduces dependence on Earth. Specialized machines handle that job. Small rovers map the surface and look beneath using radar. Subsurface scanning reveals hidden layers and potential resource deposits. Understanding what lies below helps guide excavation. Digging in the wrong place wastes time and energy. Accurate mapping prevents unnecessary work. Excavation systems take a different approach compared to traditional digging. Instead of simple scooping, some machines use rotating drums. Hollow drums spin in opposite directions, capturing regolith and holding it inside. That design prevents material from scattering in low gravity. Containment becomes easier. Once collected, regolith can be processed to extract useful elements. Efficient capture leads to efficient processing. Communication between Earth and the Moon introduces another challenge. Signals take about 1.3 seconds to travel one way. That delay might seem small, yet real-time control becomes difficult. Imagine trying to guide a machine precisely while every action arrives with a delay. Overshooting a target becomes likely. Mistakes increase. How does one maintain accuracy under such conditions? Teleoperation systems provide a solution. Operators on Earth control machines using advanced interfaces that compensate for delay. Predictive software helps smooth commands. Instead of reacting instantly, systems anticipate movement and adjust accordingly. That reduces errors caused by lag. Haptic feedback adds another layer of control. Operators do not rely solely on visual input. Touch feedback allows sensing resistance, texture, and force. When a robotic arm interacts with lunar soil, the operator feels a similar sensation through the control system. That connection improves precision. Handling delicate tasks becomes easier. Without touch feedback, judging force becomes guesswork. Testing has shown impressive results. Systems using haptic feedback achieved full efficiency in controlled experiments. Trustworthiness also remained high. Such results suggest that remote work on the moon can feel surprisingly natural despite the distance. A person sitting on Earth could manipulate tools on the moon with confidence. That idea raises an interesting thought. Does physical presence always matter, or can advanced technology bridge that gap effectively? Combining autonomy and teleoperation creates a powerful system. Fully autonomous machines handle repetitive and large-scale tasks. Remote operators step in for complex or delicate actions. That balance reduces workload while maintaining flexibility. Machines do not get tired, yet human judgment still plays a role when needed. Power management remains a constant concern. Solar energy provides a primary source during lunar day. Batteries or alternative systems must cover periods of darkness. Efficient design ensures that machines continue working without interruption. Every movement, every calculation, every transmission must consider energy use. Waste becomes unacceptable in such an environment. Maintenance also requires careful planning. Machines must diagnose problems and, when possible, fix issues without human intervention. Modular designs help. Swappable parts allow easier replacement by other machines. One robot could assist another. Cooperation between machines becomes essential. A network of robots working together forms a self-sustaining system. All of these developments point toward a larger goal. A stable presence on the moon requires infrastructure, resources, and reliable systems. Robotics provides the foundation. Without machines handling early work, human missions would face far greater risks. With machines preparing the way, future arrivals step into an environment already shaped for survival. Questions naturally arise. How far can autonomy go before human involvement becomes unnecessary? Will machines eventually handle entire missions independently? Or will human oversight always remain part of the process? Current progress suggests a partnership rather than a replacement. Every test, every prototype, every successful run moves closer to a functioning lunar base. Construction, movement, resource extraction, and remote operation all come together as parts of a larger system. Each piece solves a specific problem. Together, these solutions create something much bigger. A quiet transformation is taking place. Exploration is no longer just about reaching a destination. Preparation now begins long before arrival. Machines become the first workers, the first builders, the first operators on a distant world. That shift changes how space missions are planned and executed. And looking at all of this, another question lingers. If machines can build, explore, and operate in such extreme conditions, what limits remain? The answer continues to evolve with every new breakthrough. China's current progress on the moon. China Lunar Exploration Program began formal development phase in January 2004 after official approval of first phase planning, marking a structured entry into deep space exploration with lunar focus. China Lunar Exploration Program design followed a step-by-step engineering approach, starting from orbital reconnaissance, then moving into landing capability, then rover mobility, then sample return, then far-side operations, and then advanced retrieval missions. Space policy analysts often ask a simple question when reviewing this progression. How does a national program move from basic lunar orbit knowledge to complex robotic operations on both near side and far side of the Moon within a relatively short timeline? Chang'e mission series represents the operational backbone of China Lunar Exploration Program, delivering a continuous chain of robotic success across multiple mission generations. Chang'e 1 launched on October 24, 2007, marking first orbital lunar mission within China Lunar Exploration Program. Mission objectives included verification of deep space tracking systems, lunar orbital insertion techniques, and mapping systems for lunar surface characterization. Data output from Chang'e 1 enabled creation of first complete lunar surface map produced through Chinese space systems, a milestone often described by aerospace analysts as foundational mapping capability. How does mapping an entire lunar surface change future landing confidence? Mapping precision improves landing safety margins, reduces navigation uncertainty, and strengthens landing site selection strategy for later missions. Chang'e 2 followed on October 1, 2010, expanding China Lunar Exploration Program capability into higher resolution imaging and deeper space trajectory control. Chang'e 2 produced higher definition lunar imagery and supported detailed scouting of potential landing zones. Mission extension beyond lunar orbit demonstrated additional navigation flexibility, including deep space trajectory testing. Space engineering assessments often highlight Chang'e 2 as a transition point from basic lunar presence to advanced reconnaissance capability within China Lunar Exploration Program. Chang'e 3 marked a major operational milestone on December 2, 2013, achieving first soft landing on lunar surface under China Lunar Exploration Program. Landing zone selected within Mare Imbrium region supported surface engineering validation. Deployment of U-2 rover followed successful touchdown sequence. U-2 rover performed surface mobility operations, soil analysis, and terrain imaging. Operational duration reached nearly 1,000 days, significantly exceeding expected design lifespan. Engineers and analysts often raise an important question. What factors allow robotic systems to exceed original operational expectations by such a wide margin in lunar conditions with extreme temperature cycles and radiation exposure? Chang'e 4 mission achieved historic far-side landing on January 3, 2019 under China Lunar Exploration Program. Landing occurred within von Karman crater inside South Pole Aitken Basin. Far-side lunar landing requires relay communication support due to lack of direct line-of-sight communication with Earth. Queqiao relay satellite enabled continuous data transmission. U-2 rover deployment followed successful landing sequence, enabling surface exploration of far-side geology. Scientific interest increased due to limited prior direct observation of far-side terrain. U-2 rover operation duration extended over multiple lunar day-night cycles, becoming one of longest operational lunar rovers in history. What makes far-side lunar terrain so scientifically valuable? Geological differences, crater composition variation, and ancient impact basin structure provide insight into early solar system evolution. Chang'e 6 mission repeated far-side sample return capability on June 1, 2024, under China Lunar Exploration Program. Landing occurred within Apollo crater inside South Pole Aitken Basin region. Sample collection process involved drilling, scooping, and robotic transfer into ascent vehicle system. Return capsule delivered lunar far-side material to Earth, continuing advancement of sample return engineering. Far-side sample return introduces complex navigation, ascent timing coordination, and orbital docking precision requirements. Why does far-side sample return represent a higher engineering challenge compared to near-side sample return? Communication relay dependency, orbital alignment precision, and limited direct Earth tracking contribute to increased mission complexity. Sample return achievements from Chang'e 5 mission in 2020 represent major scientific milestone within China Lunar Exploration Program. Chang'e 5 collected approximately 1.7 kilograms of lunar material from Oceanus Procellarum region on near-side lunar surface. Returned samples included basaltic material dated approximately 2 billion years old, significantly younger compared to Apollo mission samples ranging between approximately 3.1 billion and 4.4 billion years old. Chang'e 6 far side sample return added approximately 1,935.3 grams of lunar material from far side terrain. Combined sample datasets from Chang'e 5 and Chang'e 6 missions provide comparative geological reference between near-side and far-side lunar crust composition. Planetary scientists emphasize importance of dual-region sample analysis for understanding asymmetry in lunar geology. Differences in crust thickness, volcanic activity distribution, and impact basin formation patterns become more measurable through sample comparison. China Lunar Exploration Program also demonstrates significant mass delivery capability to lunar surface environments. Multiple missions delivered landers, rovers, scientific instruments, and communication support systems to both near-side and far-side lunar terrain. Engineering assessments note increasing payload capacity, landing precision improvements, and extended operational stability across mission generations. Far-side missions require additional relay infrastructure, yet successful execution across multiple missions indicates mature system integration capability. Comparative analysis within global space exploration discussions often highlights China Lunar Exploration Program progress in context of lunar surface operations capacity. Experts frequently examine total delivered mass, operational duration, and mission complexity progression. Observations suggest consistent advancement from orbital reconnaissance to sample return systems within approximately 2 decades. How does such progression influence future lunar exploration competition and collaboration models? Increased capability often reshapes mission planning strategies across multiple national space agencies. Lunar exploration roadmap discussions frequently include future human lunar mission preparation. Sample return missions contribute critical data for landing site selection, resource evaluation, and surface engineering planning. Soil composition, regolith behavior, and geological stability analysis support human-rated mission design considerations. Robotic mission sequence under China. Lunar Exploration Program provides foundation for potential crewed lunar operations in later phases. Engineering progression across Chang'e mission series demonstrates incremental capability-building approach. Each mission builds upon previous mission data, navigation refinement, and systems validation. Orbital mapping enables landing precision. Landing validation enables rover mobility. Rover mobility enables extended surface science. Sample return enables laboratory analysis on Earth. Far-side missions expand communication architecture complexity. Each stage strengthens next operational phase. Lunar science community continues to examine implications of dual-side lunar exploration. Near-side and far-side comparison supports understanding of tidal locking effects, crust formation asymmetry, and impact history variation. South Pole Aitken Basin remains central research focus due to ancient impact origin and deep crust exposure potential. Why does South Pole Aitken Basin attract repeated mission interest? Basin structure exposes deeper lunar layers that remain inaccessible in other regions. China Lunar Exploration Program continues to evolve through sustained mission planning and technology refinement. Continuous mission success across Chang'e series reflects structured approach to deep space robotics. Engineering teams maintain focus on navigation accuracy, communication reliability, surface mobility resilience, and sample integrity preservation. Long-term mission planning includes expanded lunar-based concept studies and resource utilization research frameworks. Overall mission sequence demonstrates progression from basic orbital reconnaissance in 2007 era to far-side sample return in 2024 era. Each milestone contributes cumulative advancement in lunar exploration capability. Space analysts often summarize development trajectory through a simple observation: systematic expansion of lunar operational envelope through repeated successful missions across increasingly complex environments. Why this changes the global space race? The race to return humans to the moon has become neck and neck. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman stated his belief that China could achieve a crewed landing by 2029, or potentially 2028. Space experts acknowledge that at the Moon, China currently holds the advantage. They have gone from launching 1 or 2 satellites to launching dozens, landing significant mass on both the near and far sides. NASA's Artemis 3 mission targets a lunar landing by 2028, following the Artemis 2 crewed flyby planned for early 2026. However, the U.S. program faces budget constraints, leadership changes, technical delays with the Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft. China appears on track for 2030, with some analysts suggesting they could land earlier. Russia signed an agreement with China to build a nuclear power plant on the Moon, scheduled for completion between 2033 and 2035. Russia possesses natural advantages in nuclear power technology for space applications, leading the world in deploying such systems. Western sanctions have prevented Roscosmos from importing space technology and equipment, making partnership with China increasingly attractive. In 2023, China allocated $14.15 billion for space programs, a nearly 19% increase from $11.17 billion in 2022, while Russia allocated only $3.41 billion. This financial disparity means Russia needs a strong partner for costly long-term projects like lunar bases. Since 2014, China has invested a cumulative $85 to $95 billion in military and civil space technologies, with year-on-year trends upward from $4.9 billion in 2016 to nearly $20 billion in 2024. Water ice at the lunar South Pole has transformed the Moon from a scientific curiosity to a strategic asset. Water can be separated into hydrogen and oxygen for use as propellant or fuel for spacecraft. This petrol station in space concept becomes necessary for sending humans to Mars or deeper space operations in the long term. The international legal framework governing lunar resource exploitation remains frozen in the Cold War era. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty established that space cannot be subject to national appropriation, but debate continues as to whether this prohibition extends to private entities extracting resources. The treaty's Article 1 declares exploration shall benefit all mankind, yet provides no mandatory mechanism for sharing benefits. The 1979 Moon Agreement attempted to designate lunar resources as the common heritage of mankind and establish an international regime for exploitation, but received only 15 ratifications, none from spacefaring powers. The U.S. Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness Act of 2015 granted American citizens rights to extract space resources, with Luxembourg, UAE, and Japan following with similar laws. The Artemis Accords, first announced in October 2020, have attracted 61 signatory countries. These non-binding arrangements establish principles for lunar activity, including transparency and safety zones. In effect, they function more as a coalition agreement than universal law. As of September 2024, 13 countries have signed on to participate in the ILRS. The country that lands first may get first choice of the most useful sites near the lunar South Pole. Both China and the US have targeted this region, where some deep craters contain permanently shadowed areas that may hold water ice. There's only a small amount of suitable area near the lunar South Pole, making the establishment of a lunar base by China a real challenge to America's ability to establish such a base. The Moon represents the ultimate high ground. Whoever gains a first-mover advantage over the Moon and its resources could weaponize it in a variety of ways. Beyond immediate security concerns, the Moon offers long-term strategic positioning. If China lands first, especially before the Americans, the message will be not only that they can do this, but that the Americans have lost their skill. Dean Chang'e, a non-resident scholar with George Washington University's Space Policy Institute, noted that if China drives the lunar economy, it will influence standards, including those for positioning, navigation, and timing data, to make sure that Chinese is a language, if not the language of space. If there are constant Chinese missions and rare American missions, this determines the literal language of space travel as well as data formats. The choices made now in the relatively quiet early stages of lunar activity will set precedents that determine whether the Moon becomes a site of sustainable human expansion or another casualty of unsustainable resource conflict. China will soon be the only country with a continuous human presence in orbit through its Tiangong space station, as the International Space Station is set to be decommissioned around 2030. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.